Good morning, my friends. How are you? You having a good time? Still a bit early, isn't it? Most of you still probably got a hangover from last night. But before I start my speech, a bit of a news flash. I was just watching the BBC, which, as we know, is the font of all knowledge. Jeremy Corbyn is to be the new Doctor Who. He's perfect for the job, you know. He looks the part, he comes from the past, he's afraid of the future, and nobody's got a bloody clue what he's talking about. I love conference. We get to meet all of our friends from around this brilliant nation of ours, and we get to chat about how we're changing the world. And isn't it funny, you know, this ragged band of old contemptibles here, we've been the driving force to save our nation and the Western world. We should never forget that without UKIP, and that means every one of you and all those who are sitting at home watching us, probably falling asleep by now, who can't be with us today, none of this would have happened. President Trump acknowledges Brexit was one of the primary reasons he won. The other nations that are now struggling to free themselves, they could never do that without us. And before I go on to my actual speech, I want to thank each and every one of you, both are here and at home, for what you've done, and give you a round of applause. Thank you all. Sorry, you told me I've only got 5 minutes, so I cut all the funny bits out. Now, those of you with sharp eyes will have noticed how our fisheries spokesman is the ever-wonderful and ever-charming Mike Hookham. He's a man from a fishing background, and I know he's going to do a brilliant job. I'm now our housing spokesman, and I'd like to thank our chairman, the ever-dapper Paul Oakton, for giving me this opportunity. Now, housing, it isn't just a critically important issue for the UK, it's also politically important for UKIP. The other parties have ignored the real reasons for our housing shortage. The fact that due to their insane immigration policies have essentially thrown the doors open. We need to build a new city the size of Birmingham every 2 years, or to put it another way, 7 or 8 Boltons. We in UKIP aren't afraid to talk about the underlying reasons for this. Uncontrolled immigration and the fact that right to buy properties weren't replaced one for one with directly comparable council homes. And consequently, there is now a lack of real affordable housing for those at the bottom of society who need a break and a chance to build a decent life for themselves and their families. And now this has caused dreadful issues with housing waiting lists. The London Borough of Barking in Dagenham, as according to the councillor in charge of social care, a 50-year waiting list, that's 50. You'd literally be a pensioner by the time you got to the top of the list if you put your name down the day you left school. You know, this madness has to end. We've also got the fact that councils do not generally now own their own housing stock. It's been given to housing associations, which adds another level of costs. The highest paid chief executive of a housing association, of which there are many, believe me, I've looked into this, was paid £525,000 in the year 2015-16. Shame, yeah. And this takes away the money to build houses for people who need them and goes straight into the pockets of the already wealthy. It's got to end. We must give housing responsibility back to local councils who are elected by the people and must stand or fall on their decisions. So even if we halt all immigration today, we still have a huge backlog of homelessness which we need to fix. Shelter, the housing charity, is now 50 years old. Why is the great work that Shelter does still needed? That's as much an indictment of the old parties as anything else. A report from Shelter, boom, says that 49% of all private tenants reported poor housing conditions in the previous year. The time has come to change how we're housed and how we live. A child who lives in a clean, warm home will obviously be a healthier and happier child. So let's make our kids healthier and happier. Shelter proposed a change to the recent Housing and Planning Act to ensure that rented accommodation is fit for human habitation, by simply updating the existing law so that the cost of these properties covered is in line with modern day costs, and so the tenants could bring landlords to court to force them to make their housing fit to live in. And the political establishment voted it down. They simply don't care. Now, we know that property developers are amongst the biggest donors to the Conservative Party. They give the Tories millions. But did you know that a single property developer gave Sadiq Khan £15,000 before he was made Mayor of London? And also, according to the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, that between 2010 and 2015, the property sector was the biggest source of donations to the Labour Party. He's standing up, I better go. After the unions. Right, so I'm going to miss a couple of pages out here. I know it would have all been thrilling, but he's bigger than me. Right. Right, I'm going to do one more little bit of it. Governments have a duty to their people above all else. Before sending billions abroad in foreign aid or entering pointless wars that simply cause brave people to die in foreign lands for causes that are nothing to do with us, their duty is to give their own people the ability to live a safe and secure life. UKIP is the party of the people and for the people. If we're to become a party of government, we need to have policies that give the people of our nation safety, security, and most of all, a hope for the future. A nation that gives our children a decent chance in life, rather than scrabbling round in poverty and insecurity. This is our mission. Brexit was only the start. It opened the door to a new and better future. We must go forward, and we must take that future. Thank you all, and have a lovely time.
Thanks, Ray.
My pleasure.